A confession. I would have never drafted Caleb Williams with the number one draft pick in the NFL last night. Michael McLean, brassballsvideos.com. I am an ex-minor league hockey coach, amateur championship hockey coach, turned 8-figure entrepreneur. You can download my free book, my brand new book, 5 Ways to Unfuck Your Life in the Next 30 Days, at the link below. Just click on the link in the comments or go to brassballsvideos.com, put in your email. I'll send you a copy of the 22-page book by email. I'm an email guy. Free, nothing else to buy. brassballsvideos.com. So I'm shooting this video actually as I walk back from dinner, and the draft will be starting any minute now. And Caleb Williams will be drafted by the Chicago football team, by the Bears in the first round. But I want to share my thinking, my congruent or outlier, maybe maverick or renegade thinking about the entire process, looking at things a little bit differently from a winning Super Bowls perspective. Man, I love the city of Chicago. I'm a huge Blackhawks fan. I love the Cubs, and I think it's been a lot of tough years for the loyal Bears fans. And if anybody deserves a transformation of their franchise in the NFL, it's those incredible Chicago Bears fans. And God willing, Caleb Williams is the key piece to making them relevant again. It's going to take 2 to 3 years if he receives outstanding coaching, if he puts both feet, he goes all in, he burns the ships, and he goes in on whatever it takes to become a better player, to fit in and lead a pro franchise that is struggling. He's no different than any other first-round pick. You know, there's no reason whining or complaining about the team they're going to. If you're a Sidney Crosby, or you're a Tom Brady, or you're a Mario Lemieux, or, it doesn't matter. If you're a top pick, you're going to one of the weakest franchises. And in a lot of cases, it starts in ownership. So they're put in a position at an early age where not only are they going to a losing culture, but there's so much pressure on these young men to be the savior. So it'll be up to the people that surround this young man in Chicago. It'll start with the owner, the president, the general manager, and of course the head coach. And in 3 years' time, I can tell you right now, they'll either be a serious team, a Super Bowl contender with this kid at the helm, getting better every year, buying in 100%, putting in the time like a Tom Brady or a Michael Jordan or a Sidney Crosby or a Connor McDavid, or in 2 to 3 times, 3 to 2 years, the head coach will be gone, the offensive coordinator will be gone, and the Bears will be starting at scratch again. That's the way it is in the NBA, in the NHL, and no different in the NFL. So really interesting to watch what happens. The part that really makes me say that this is a kid I would have taken a unwelcome and a pass on him is I would have used the old Jimmy Johnson building the Dallas Cowboys into back-to-back Super Bowl champions from the outhouse to the penthouse. If I was the owner of the Chicago Bears, and this is my opinion, I know just enough to be dangerous, I would have looked at this a couple of years ago, and you see it coming. You see you've got an opportunity. You're going to be in the running for this incredible talent. I mean, the kid can throw, he can run. He's like a Patrick Mahomes, but not yet. He's got that natural ability. But you also had, and I love what I saw from Justin Fields this year. As a former minor pro coach, I love that kid's mental toughness. I loved his grit. I loved his gradual improvement. He came to a tough situation in Chicago. You've got different coordinators, you've got coaches, you got a losing organization. And in spite of that, especially in the second half of last year, you got a kid who made massive improvements. So what do you do with that top pick that you've put in a handful of years into developing, and he's finally showing signs? Well, you got a new head coach, new coordinators, and you trade him for next to nothing, right? In the hockey business, we would have called it a pail of pucks. And he sure as hell is worth a hell of a lot more than that. He's, in my opinion, Fields is a number one quarterback in this league. He just needs a second opportunity. He needs a head coach that believes in him. He needs an offensive coordinator that believes in him. He needs the right opportunity. And that's a guy that we haven't heard the last from. But you can see how these young quarterbacks, they get drafted into these losing cultures, and the ownership and the general managers and the coaches, they're not nuclear physicists of football. You know, you don't have a Bill Belichick or a Bill Parcells or a Vince Lombardi or any of these guys developing. So this is how some of these young players get lost in the first couple years, maybe 3 years. They got 3 different coordinators, 3 different offenses, and a couple of head coaches. And then they turn to them and say, well, he didn't develop. Now, what's on the young player, which is missing from today as well, is, and these are the red flags with this young man. These are the red flags. If I'm recruiting this kid to college, if I'm considering taking the number one pick on this kid, I've been watching him for the last 10 years. And there's tells and there's flags, whatever you want to call them. But mine are a little bit different than everybody else's, and I've been recruiting for 21 years. I've been recruiting blue chip hockey players to commit to our program for anywhere from 1 to 4 years. So I don't know quarterbacks, but I know people. And I know the tells, and I know the red flags that I look for. And on top of that is the fact that I've been in business for 31, so I've also been hiring everybody from salespeople to receptionists to you name it. So I know people, and there's certain golden gut intuition calls that you have to say to yourself, well, is this somebody I want to take a chance on? So if I'm the general manager or the owner of the Chicago Bears, something that I would have done that I said, you know what? We've got an asset here. We've got a card to play. We're going to go all in on Justin Fields. We're going to make a coaching change. We're going to make a offensive coordinator change. But man, we're going to go all in with this Fields kid. We like what we see. We like his physical toughness, his mental toughness. We're going to teach him to read plays better than he has. all that kind of stuff. But we're going to use this chip. This, it's a pocket full of aces having the first round pick. And we're going to use that first round pick to load up our team with the type of blue chip players like Jimmy Johnson did when he traded Herschel Walker, and literally loaded the Cowboys with prospects and players that became Troy Aikman, became Emmitt Smith, became Michael Irvin, and literally load the cupboard with offensive linemen, maybe a linebacker, but the positions that have proven to lead teams to Super Bowl champions. And as an owner, as a general manager, I would say to myself, is this a player that's going to lead us to a Super Bowl in 4 or 5 years? And if you don't give up on the Fields kid, you have this number one chip to play. And I'm a gambler, so I'm sitting there, instead of throwing him back into the ocean, which they did for nothing, instead you keep him, you believe in him, you commit to him, and you take this, what my golden gut tells me, an overrated chip, clearly the most talented, the most gifted player in the draft, but maybe an overrated piece. We'll see. And you take this overrated piece and you shop it out there, and you even, in the first 5 picks, there's going to be quarterbacks. But beyond that, you can literally do what Jimmy Johnson in Dallas did with the Herschel Walker deal, with is multiple picks in late first rounds, in second rounds, and literally load your team with winning players for the future. You're going to continue to lose for another year, maybe another couple years like they did in Dallas. And then all of a sudden, these players that you have invested in, from the quarterback to the offensive line to the defensive line, specialty teams, all of a sudden, your cupboard is full of these prospects that have now developed into outstanding NFL players. So you took that number one overrated chip and you sold it to a desperate buyer. And of course, somebody's going to overpay. They have to overpay. If this kid becomes the next Patrick Mahomes, you know what? You tip your visor and you say, good for him. If he becomes the next Tom Brady, you tip your visor and you're glad that it happened for the kid. But as a player, as a general manager, and as an owner, they just handed you the shiny object, and in my opinion, the overrated object, and you should have sold. You should have sold. It's like me selling one of my companies. It doesn't matter whether I'm close to retirement or young or old. When it's at its peak, I look to sell. When something's at its peak, I look to sell. Well, this is a player who might be at his peak. He might not be at his peak. He might be at the start of his Hall of Fame career. But there's also a bunch of tells, a bunch of red flags that I would use. If he was an employee or somebody applying to work for me, or he was a hockey player, looking to play for our team. I've recruited thousands of players, and I've recruited hundreds and hundreds of employees. And I've always gone for the no. And if you know anything about negotiation, the FBI's most feared negotiator was a man by the name of Jim Camp. He was the FBI's most feared negotiator. If they had to negotiate with the Taliban or they had to negotiate with North Korea, Jim Camp was the ass kicker they sent in. And his entire negotiation was called go for the no. He didn't split the difference. He went for the no. So I've used this in business and in sport, recruiting, hiring people for years. where I'd go and visit a blue chip recruit. And when I'm talking to mom and dad and I'm talking to the athlete, I'm literally asking the opposite questions of all the other ass kissers. Come here and we'll give you this, give you this. They're entitled enough. They're spoiled enough. They're lazy enough. They're rich enough. I gave them the gym camp. You know, this program might not be for you. It's going to be hard all the time. It's not for most people. The team, you know, is before self. You're going to have to work harder than you've ever worked in your life. There's going to be lots of tough days. You know the spiel. I'm going for the no. I'm trying to get the athlete, and I'm trying to get mom and dad to say no. And that's the ultimate tell. When I'm looking for a champion, a future champion, mom and dad are actually, or the player, if they're who we want, they're actually heading the other way. They're like, I'm going to play for this son of a bitch. And I'm going to go there and I'm going to work every day, dawn to dusk, and I'm going to prove this son of a bitch that I was the best recruit ever, and we're going to win multiple championships. That's what I'm looking for. Steve Jobs did the same thing at Apple when he recruited his top people that he worked with personally. He was infamous for taking these people that he would work with, the developers, the managers, on these long walks. No interviews over the desk. Just 2-hour walks around the Apple the campus. And what was Jobs doing? He was getting them out of their comfort zone. He was pattern interrupting them. He's getting rid of the cliches and all the bullshit. And he would just walk and talk, walk and ask questions, walk and ask questions. And the person's guard is down because, you know, they're walking and they're trying to, you know, and all of a sudden, you know, they've given him all the tells, all the red flags. And then he can make a decision after this. Is this somebody that's going to help Apple win Super Bowls, as an example? So I've done the same thing in all my companies. By the time somebody gets to me to be hired, they've been through 9 hoops, 10 hoops. We've gone for the no. We've tested them to see if they're coachable. Is Caleb Williams coachable? I don't know. But I sure as hell would have put him through the ringer so that I would have known whether he's willing to listen, whether he's willing to be coached, whether he's willing to work 16 hours a day, like a Tom Brady, like a Sidney Crosby, like a Michael Jordan, so that we can make an informed decision. And if I put him through these hoops before I draft him, and I take him on these walks and I talk to him and all the stuff that nobody else does, if I find out some flags, some tells that I don't like crying after a loss or all this other stuff. Michael Jordan cried after he won his 5th championship. Sidney Crosby cried when he won his 3rd Stanley Cup. Are you kidding me? Tom Brady cried when he won his 7th Super Bowl. Champions cry when the job is done. Another tell with this young man and all the young players today is, soon as you get recruited or drafted at a young age, let's say out of high school, let's say you get recruited and you get signed with Alabama or Clemson, doesn't make any difference. The mindset needs to be, the work starts now. Now that I'm going to college, the hard work starts. This isn't the start. This isn't the finish. This is the start of the hard work. You've worked for 15, 20 years to get here. Now the college work starts. Same thing when you watching these guys come out with the sunglasses and the suits and all this stuff on draft day, NBA or NFL like last night. And I'm just sitting there and watching these guys come out, and they're actors and they're posers and they're all this other stuff, everything but about the game. And I'm just sitting there going, I sure as fuck hope you're in the weight room. I sure as hell hope you're the hardest working guy in this draft. Because like the great Tim Grover said, Michael Jordan's peak performance coach, if the football goes away or the hockey goes away or the baseball goes away or the basketball goes away, the rest of this shit doesn't matter. So if you don't focus on the one thing, which Caleb Williams is developing into a quarterback in the NFL level, then the rest of it doesn't matter. The phone calls go away, the celebrity goes away, the extra advertising dollars, it all goes away when the one thing is no longer the one thing. So I'm going to watch this. I'm very interested to see. It's a kid who's got a lot of money. I don't hold that against anybody. I'm a capitalist. I believe in all of that stuff. But it'll all come down to one thing for this young man. Does the work start now? Is he willing to put in the extreme hard work for the next decade, for the next decade and a half to win Super Bowls? To literally put everything aside for the city of Chicago and for his teammates for one goal. One goal. To bring a Super Bowl to Chicago. And no matter what you say about team sport, if you don't have that commitment from your quarterback, then it ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. So this will be interesting to see. I hope and pray for the young man that he goes all in and he focuses on the one thing. I hope that he develops as a player over the next 2 to 3 years. I really hope and pray that the Bears become, a serious team in the next 3 to 4 years. And I really hope it works out for this young man. I would not have drafted him. I would have used this as the ultimate chip to build my team into a juggernaut. That's my opinion. That's my way of thinking. Defense wins great championships. You already had a QB1. You already had a QB1. You may disagree, whatever. The bottom line is, I would have used that massive chip, in my opinion, the new shiny object overrated chip, and I would have loaded the cupboard with the pieces and the players necessary to compete down the road for a Super Bowl championship. So my sport is winning. I love watching all of this stuff, football, hockey, business, marketing. We win some, we lose some, we keep on fighting. I have a link below. You can download my book for free. It's a simple 22-page PDF. It's a brand new book of mine. You can print it off. You can read it on your phone. 5 ways to unfuck your life in the next month. Thousands of businessmen and entrepreneurs and copywriters and everybody, husbands, fathers, have downloaded the book at brassballsvideos.com. All you got to do is fill in your email and you can download the book for free. There's nothing to buy. It's 100% my gift to you. I'm going to keep it up for about 24 more hours, but the link is below. If you're already on my email list, no worries. I'll email a copy of the book if you don't have it to you. Trust me, we all need to unfuck our lives. Nobody knows what they're doing. Let's be honest. There's nobody coming to save us. Nobody gives a shit about our problems or our gripes or whatever. It's up to us to make it work. It's up to us. If it's going to be, it's up to me. So brassballsvideos.com, you can download that or print it off. Remember to share it if you find some value, comment below. If you find some value, share it with your managers, your adult children, your teenagers, whoever. And the link is below, my free gift to you. That's it for today. 2 words that changed my life, 2 words that can change yours. Be relentless.